It's a great day. My name is Che Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the #1 business development and revenue-focused late-night show in the country where we are on a mission. And our mission really is to empower. Our mission is to inspire. And our mission is to provide you, that's right, you, the hard-working entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. And on this episode, we have the one and only Lorrinda. She'll be here talking about the transplant journey. You don't want to miss this episode. Can't wait. What's going on, Lorrinda? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Shay.
Thank you for being here. I know this is a very serious conversation that we're having, so I don't want to, make light of it. But I'm curious, before we get started, they'll read your bio, I'm sure. They'll Google you and all that. We'll get to your background in a moment. But I'm just curious, I'm probably the only one. Transplant. When someone's in the doctor's office, I hope this is an appropriate question, and the doctor informs them that a type of transplant will be needed, what typically goes through that person's mind, number one, and how should they deal with it in that type of situation? I mean, I haven't been through it personally, but I'm just curious.
I was diagnosed. I was in the hospital, and the pastor kept coming by to see me. I was in ICU, and I was like, I wonder, is he bored? I didn't know how sick I was. And I went up to a regular room, and the doctor comes in and says, you have inoperable liver cancer and you need a liver transplant or you're going to die. And my ears started ringing and I could hear nothing. It was like Charlie Brown's teacher talking to me. There was just nothing but the sound of my ringing ears. And then I looked at my aunt and I said, what did he say? And I said, go get him. Please go get him. He came back in and told me I needed a liver transplant. I had an operable liver cancer. And if I didn't get that, I would die. And my thought was, I can't. And I don't have the money. I don't have the resources. I don't know what to do. I don't. And in that moment, I had just gotten a diagnosis. And, I needed, my outlook needed to change with that. And I didn't know how to navigate a transplant system, so it was very overwhelming.
And as overwhelming as it was for you, and wow, you're just so transparent. I love this, by the way. What about the person that's hearing the news? So you heard the news, and let's just imagine that I and you were, and I knew who you were, and I now know that you have been given this information. What advice, I'll say it like this. What advice would you give someone that's trying to support a friend or a family member? Is it don't speak about it, just kind of whisper? Or, what are 1, 2, or 3 things that we can do if we're trying to support someone who's just hearing the news?
I can tell you my brother just had a liver transplant in May, which was kind of shocking and overwhelming. And it was hard for me to sit back as a sister and do what I do and to let him just help him on his journey. But I say the #1 thing is to try to understand that they're going through something that you're not, because they're dealing with their own mortality and things like that. And you're dealing with the hospitals or doctor's appointment, but be there to support them and understand that if they are overwhelmed or they don't know how to proceed or what to do, that they just need your guidance and your love, just to say it's okay. And you're there for them. And it should be talked about. What are you going through? How are you feeling? What can I do to help you? And that care partner or that support person needs to have someone they can talk to and say, you know what, this is very overwhelming for me. And I don't know how to do this, but what have you done in the past that can help me navigate this with my family member?
I know folks are dying to hear more about your story, and we're going to get to that in a moment. But I'm curious, for you, or I'll say, is part of the recommendation to get some type of therapy? And the reason I asked that question is I know some folks are Christians. I happen to be a Christian. You don't have to be a Christian to follow me, ladies and gentlemen, to be out there. But if you are, I'll just say in my little small circle, going to therapy is like, oh, no, just go to the pastor, you go to the church, they pray, and that's it. You just kind of make it work. So my question to you, and maybe it's far-fetched, but maybe it's not fair, but therapy. Tell us your mindset and belief system around getting therapy outside of the church. I mean, if that's not too sticky there for you.
No, I think I think therapy is, we run a peer-to-peer program for pre and post-transplant patients. And that is therapy in itself, because someone that's getting ready to start a journey in transplant can talk to another person that's had a transplant, or they're 5 years post-transplant, and they see hope. And they can say in this meeting, it's confidential. It's we don't share anything. They can say, I want to give up, and not be judged. And because sometimes it's overwhelming that you want to feel that way. And so we really talk to people, talk them through that. And it's okay to admit that it's hard. It's okay to admit that you want to give up, but then you've got to come back and fight. And how do you do that? And a lot of that, I always say, get a fight song. I mean, every sport team has a fight song. Everyone has a fight song, it seems like. So, get something that pulls you up out of that when you want to give up, because you're going to want to give up, and it's going to hurt sometimes, but you can come through it.
You can come through. Now, you can't toss out fight song without giving us a little backstory, because everybody's like, oh, fight song. I wonder what her fight song is. I wonder what her fight song is. Now, and I got to tell you this, because, most of our audience are dualpreneurs, just to let you know that. They work full-time jobs. They're full-time entrepreneurs. They're moms, they're dads, they're brothers, they're sisters. Some of them have kids. Some of them are like Shay Brown. They're a caregiver. So they're responsible for someone else, their mom or dad. And many of them are involved in their community. So when you said fight song, some of them said, oh, my gosh. So number one, give us a little backstory on fight song, and then what is your fight song? I don't have a fight song. I wish I did, but I'm going to get one. What's your fight song?
Well, it's really weird, because I was listening, it was 2017 when I got sick. And so I'm just listening to music. And actually This Is My Fight Song by Rachel Platten. This is my fight song, Take Back My Life song, Prove I'm All Right song. But after my transplant was Mandisa, This Is What Scars Are For. Because the scar from a liver transplant is pretty darn big. And just to be able to understand that I've been through this journey. So I have a different fight song depending on what it is. Before you go speak, I have Eminem. And then, I play my fight song when I'm depressed. I have to have a different fight song depending on what I'm going to be doing.
I love it. Why don't we slow down for a minute, and then we'll speed back up. You told us a little bit about who you are in the beginning, but we'll slow down and tell us a little about who are you and what's the backstory that now led you to doing what you're doing now.
So my backstory, I'll tell you, is I was in construction. I've always been an advocate for minority women, small businesses, and I actually was involved with the Minority Supplier Development Council and the Arizona Hispanic Chamber when I was in Arizona. And I had a lot of things that were going great, but there were a lot of things in my past that I didn't deal with very well. And that just led me down a road to dealing with things that were probably not the best way to cope. And that was, I'd go out to happy hour and then go home and drink a little bit more wine. And it was probably not the best thing. And I didn't know that I had other things going on. And it was, I had not the best childhood, had things happen. I had a fiance commit suicide. I went through, my marriage was breaking up. I just changed jobs. It was overwhelming. And then I'm thinking, oh, I can just drink and it'll be fine because I've got it under control. That thought, I can control it. And there was no control. And I ended up moving from Arizona to Oklahoma. And about 7 months later, that's when I got sick. So it was very overwhelming. But everything that happened to me prepared me for this part of my journey. And I would not change it for the world because it has been so overwhelmingly beautiful just to be able to see life differently.
Powerful, by the way. You know, you're so open, you're so transparent. I hear two words when you're talking, which is rebirth and resilience. When you hear the word resilience, what do you hear, and what does that mean to you? Because you're someone that certainly has, in my opinion, demonstrated it.
Resilience is just for me not giving up. I thought so many times I wanted to give up, and it's like, no, there's something else for me. I need to continue to go. And when I went in to get my transplant, I had that call, they had a liver for me. And it was very overwhelming because I was going to the hospital, get a liver transplant. And so I had the high of highs. I was like, I'm going to get my transplant. And then the doctor comes in and said, the liver's not viable. We can't do your transplant. And so that was like a gut punch. And that happens quite a bit for patients. And it's very sad and it's overwhelming. And a week later, they called and I was going in to get my liver transplant. And all I could say to my family was, I love you, because you can't say anything else. You can't go back and apologize or fix anything that's happened. You just have to say, I love you, because you're going in and you don't know if you're going to come out on the other side. And you have got to have complete trust in God and have faith that it's going to be the way it's supposed to be.
As you were talking, we're wondering about the whole advocacy piece. How do you stay encouraged and motivated when a part of what you're doing as well is influencing policy? Something that's out of your control. You can't just say, go do it, but you have to build relationships. So I guess my question is, and for those folks that are listening, is really, how do you deal with the whole advocacy piece, which is a large part of what you do as well, when a lot of things are just out of your control?
You got to connect with people. And it's just that I connected with Albie Sure last year, a year and a half ago, after his liver transplant. And himself and Rachel Nordlinger and Al Sharpton started Health Equity and Transplantation. And they have such a great group. And they were a co-lead with us on an Honor the Gift coalition, where we went in March to HHS and, wanted cell-free DNA testing for patients that have, a kidney transplant, or kidney transplant, a heart or lung transplant, so they can get non-invasive tests and not have to, set the family back money and things like that. And it's connecting with the people that can help you make the change. I think that's really important, is when we can connect and, just keep feeding people information, because there's sometimes you've got to go back and say, okay, this is not working and how can we fix it? Because not all policy on paper actually works for patients. So just like with anything, you got to take different avenues to get to the final result.
I love it, by the way. One of the things we have here, before we get into a segment we have here called Today's My January 1st, and you've had a lot of challenges. So I'm really curious on how you bounce back, but is dealing with overwhelm. I mean, I imagine going through this process, folks are overwhelmed. The reason I bring that up is entrepreneurs, you're maybe overwhelmed as well, by the way, with all the responsibilities you have, all the stress in your life. And I'm curious, like you might be, if Lorrinda could step back and say, look, here are 1, 2, or 3 secrets of just dealing with overwhelm when there's so much coming down on you at one time, whether it's a transplant was very serious, whether it's going to the doctor's visits, whether it's dealing with family that you need to support you, or others that have to support you. What are 3 things you share with folks to deal with overwhelm, or, again, I hate to say reduce stress, but be able just to kind of reduce that little bit of stress and anxiety inside of them without having to sip a drink? No, I'm joking. I couldn't miss that.
No, but that's true. That is true. I can tell you that I believe that being not kind to yourself, actually talking to yourself that you are a good person, because we're so apt to tell the story of we're bad and we shouldn't do this. And I think we have to, that self-talk is huge. Meditation, knowing if you're Christian, whatever you believe in, that you believe in something higher than you, that you're not the highest power out there, that there is someone else, something greater than you. and to be open and honest with things, because um, that gets you further just by saying, you know what, right now I can't tackle this, but I'm going to tackle it later, and really just giving yourself some grace. I think sometimes we don't give ourselves grace because we're working too hard to get to where we need to be.
What you do is so important, not only to saving lives, but keeping families together and so forth. And it's very serious. We do have a segment here called Today is My January 1st. Now, I know for some of you, you wait for this moment. You're here every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can't wait to go ahead and say those magical words. So if you want to say those magical words right now, you can. Today is my January 1st. Happy New Year to you, by the way. And for all the new folks who are listening, welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show family. You might be wondering what's going on. First, we appreciate you for being here, by the way, and allowing us to stream into your home, especially during these remarkable, challenging times that we live in right now. But today is our January 1st is our personal mantra at the Happy Entrepreneur Show. It represents a fresh start. It represents a do-over. It means our past, no matter how dark and gloomy that past is or how bright and sunny that past is, the past no longer equals the future. So my question to Lorrinda on the other side is really twofold. Number one, when you hear those words, today is my January 1st, what kind of goes through your mind? And number two, what was another setback you had and how were you able to bounce back from it?
So today is my January 1st. So I would say that the moment was when I got the call to actually get my liver transplant. For me, that was where I could see that there could be a future, and because I only had a couple months to live, and it was very hard to tackle that, because when I was started going through the process of transplantation, I had to go to AA, and I was like, oh, this is horrible, and I can't stand this, and these people don't understand. And I was like, these people. And what I learned, it wasn't the amount I drank, it was the fact that when I drank, I didn't stop. And I have been sober almost 8 years. And I'm very happy about that, because my life is so much better. And I didn't realize how bad it was, in the sense of, I didn't go to jail. I didn't do any of those DUI, any of that. I had a job. I did everything that I was supposed to, but to be sober and to be able to come back from that and realize that, okay, that was really hard for you. Now, how can you help someone else? So being of service to others for me, I started an online AA program for patients that are actually going through a transplant that may need to go to AA. A lot of times they need a piece of paper signed to prove to insurance that they're sober. And I help do that for them, because sick patients can't go anywhere. And there's some patients just can't go anywhere because they live in a small town, and, alcohol may have contributed, but it may not be the only factor. And the fact that it could be liver, lung, heart, or kidney, that they have them go to AA. So, and AA being Alcoholics Anonymous, I think, for me, it was when I found out I could be of service to others, that just helps me every day be better. And just to come back and say, I've been through it, and I know you can too. And how do we help each other get there? I guess for me, it was always finding out that I had to see the choices that I was making and know that I couldn't change my past, but I had control. I didn't really have the control over my past, but I had control over what was happening, in the sense of how my mindset was going to be dealing with it.
Wow. What do you enjoy most about what you're doing now? I can hear the passion. Even when we was in the green room, well, ladies and gentlemen, we don't really have a green room, but if we did have a green room, that just means before we got started, by the way, you were just firing away with so much passion about what you're doing. I was thinking one thing and you quickly clarified in a very polite way, but you were so passionate about it. I guess my first question before we talk about why you love what you're doing, where does passion inside your heart come from to just give, to just serve, to just do something for humanity that's really much bigger than yourself?
I think it's going through a life and death situation and you're realizing how important it is to help someone else and that you're not, at first we think we're the only ones that have ever been through it. And that's not the truth. There's a word for it. You're not the first, and sometimes we like to think that we're the first ones to ever have this challenge. And for me to be a part of over 400 patients' transplant journeys over the last 5 years has been amazing. And that's what keeps me going is I see people and I help them, and then I see them helping someone else. And then I see them at restaurants and they're taking pictures because we've built a community that supports each other, that can pick up the phone and call and say, you know what, I know what you're going through, or I want to give up. Just those, being able to have that connection to someone else that has been through something is so different than someone that just kind of knows about it. Just making that connection, I think for patients, for me, it's watching someone come from the brink of death, basically. They're at the end stage, and to see them heal and to see the work that happens with the transplant teams and making sure that the patients are getting what they need or getting medication, how to navigate that system. I mean, for me, that's just, I don't know, I love it. I just love helping other people.
Wow. A heart to give, clearly a heart to serve by doing what you're doing now. In this journey of life, you've had, sounds like, many mentors. You've worked with multiple folks where you've been helping others, and sometimes people have been helping you. I'm just curious, one of my favorite questions to ask when we have time, we have a few minutes now, but what's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given? What's one of it? Now, I'll frame it for the audience. Like I said before, she's had a lot of mentors, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I'm sure she's read more books than we can remember. She has fight songs. I think you're one of the few people that ever come on the show saying, "I've got multiple fight songs." I'm going to use that, by the way. They need to give me a song just for this here, by the way, because I love that you have fight songs for different things. But if you had to step back and answer, Shay, here's one of the best pieces of advice I've ever been given. Here's what it is and why. What would you share? Now, she don't have to come off the mountain with the 10 commandments, ladies and gentlemen. I'm putting her on the spot, but maybe she'll share something with us.
There's one thing that I really like that I've read, and it says the final stage of healing is helping someone go through the process that you went through, something like that. Because it is that healing that takes place when you're helping someone else. So that was by Gloria Steinem, I think. And there's also one by Ralph Waldo Emerson that, what is it? There is now I can't even think of it. So it's the courage to, there's always someone to tell you that you're wrong. And there's always someone to tell you that it won't work. And to move forward basically requires courage. And it's that courage to keep moving forward, even when people are telling you it's never going to happen. And I think that, with the people that you're serving, I think that they need to know that it can happen. And, that, the courage they show every day by showing up at a job and then, doing their business on the side or doing both of them. I mean, all of that requires courage, and for them to, they inspire me, actually.
Wow. I love it. Before we come down the home stretch, what do you enjoy most about what you're doing these days?
The people. All the different people I get to meet, because I meet people of everyone. I mean, and everyone is the same. It doesn't matter when you're sick. I mean, everyone feels the same way. And it doesn't matter how rich you are or how poor you are. You're in the same boat as everyone else. And that really, it's making sure that we have that everyone has a fair chance and everyone has access to what they need. And so for me, that's my that's what I keep going to, is making sure that everyone has, I don't know if I answered the question right, but I just keep, I think,
Yeah.
Patients or people, we just all need I don't know, I guess, to have that fight song, or have that, there's always going to be moments in life that are hard.
Yeah, there they are. And, now this is on the opposite side, and this is probably second to last question, but what do you do for fun? Like when you're not out saving the world, you're not out helping transplants, you're not out advocating for them and building this pathway or this journey from resilience to rebirth, which is, I think, is the transplant journey here. What do you do for fun?
That's it. I love that. That is my passion. And so I got married almost a year and a half ago. And so I met my husband.
Congratulations. You can't just drop that on us like it's no big deal. I'm on my third marriage, okay? So I take every day that I'm married again happy. So you can't just drop it down like, oh, I got married a year and a half ago. It's no big. No, congratulations.
We got married on Halloween too. So
you have that's a topic for a whole nother time.
Yeah. So we got married on Halloween, and but it was, it was nice to find someone that had some things in common, and to find that I never thought I would find again, because I'm a transplant patient. I take over 10,000 pills a year, and just to have someone be accepting of that, and of the burden of a transplant patient, for me, I feel blessed to have that. It's really been, I'm trying to think, so just to be able to find that and be able to move forward. I'm just, sometimes my brain, my medicine messes with it. So
yeah, and I understand. Well, first of all, let me say two things. Number one, for folks that want to connect with you, two things. One, where should they go, and what's the best way for them to connect with you, whether they're going through a situation right now, as you talked about in the beginning when you was in the doctor's office, or if they know someone who's going through something. How should they connect with you? What's the website? What should they do?
Well, I will tell you, every Tuesday and Thursday, we have peer-to-peer meetings that happen, and they are at 6:30 Central Time. And we have a website that is www.trioweb.org. And it's Transplant Recipients International Organization is what it stands for. And we have education on post-transplant, pre-transplant, insurance, any of our support groups. And my email is on there as well, but it's ldavis@trioweb.org.
Say that one more time, a little slower for them again, please.
It's ldavis@trio, TRIO, web.org.
Thank you. Let me say thank you so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. I know you can always make more money, but you can't make more time. So you're giving us the most precious resource you have, which is your time. So thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
And thank you. Thank you to viewers. Thank you for tuning in, by the way, because without you, we don't have a show. So thanks for allowing us to stream into your home, whether you're watching on Apple TV or Roku or Amazon Fire. Maybe you listen to the podcast, or maybe you're one of the social media platforms you're following us. Thank you so much. I never get tired of reminding you, every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, no matter what's going on in your life, whether you've been hit with the punch that you never saw coming, or you're trying to get to another level of success, this is what I believe to be true, is that today, no matter what's happening in your life, is your January 1st. And because of just that one reason alone, I believe your best is still yet to come. Your best is yet to come. Your best is yet to come. With that being said, my name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Thanks for joining in. Peace. Thanks so much, Lorrinda. We out of here, everybody. Bye-bye.